What is up, down, and sideways, all you beautiful individuals? Welcome back inside. It is League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you, beauties, as we are back for a weekend recap because we got multiple regions to actually recap week one in the LEC, kicking off summer regular season. They're straight up calling it the regular season now, this first single round robin best of one. So we'll take it. We'll call it regular season. We're already getting some, not surprise, but wacky 2-0s and upsets, starting, of course, with G2 versus SK Gaming, the new Korean bot lane duo showing up right away for SK.
Oh man, were they ever showing up and dishing out the damage for SK? This is a story we've seen a couple times, and unfortunately, it comes through this year. It is the G2 post-MSI hangover. The question, how long is it going to last in this performance for G2 to see them slumping down a little bit and behind the eight ball? I think a lot of this is giving credit over to what SK did properly, what they did get going for them in this game, but there still has to be those questions answered on G2 about that performance.
And this is... we're often talking about G2. I feel like they rarely even finish first in the regular season. You know, they're coming in that 2-3-4 zone. So not surprising at all, especially post-MSI, to see them kind of have a slow start. They had a slow start in their first game of the weekend as well. Ended up coming back from behind to win that. But I think this is more about SK showing up, putting up a solid performance. Irrelevant 2 games in, looking well on his path to being that first team all-pro top laner in that conversation again this split.
Which is one of those strong signs that you needed to see if you were SK and you were hoping to do some damage, hoping to make a push through the playoffs, is having a relevant, be that outstanding top laner for your team. That is something that I think you're going to need regardless of where we're going to see the firepower from the new bottom lane and how they can rise up and what type of contribution they can make. You're going to need to rely upon having that rock, having that solid option of a relevant, and he certainly was that in this series against G2.
And that this weekend, first couple of games, that's not the Poppy from Mickey that we saw at MSI. That's a different beast.
That ain't the one that's earning the bans out there on the MSI stage. That was a different story altogether.
And SK, we'll see if they can keep up this level. I mean, truthfully, Niski and Isma didn't even look that great in these 2 wins. It was more about the bot lane and Irrelevant on that top side showing up. But G2, doesn't matter. Again, they could be 8th heading into regular season, and you're still going to be terrified of them when the best ofs roll around. Some other 2-0 starts. Fnatic had the easiest first 2 games probably on the docket with K-Corp and Giant X, but really got to highlight Jackie's, this Varus mid. I've never seen a guy. He's trying his damnedest to carry this solo queue level squad to a victory. He is 8-1 at one point. He had every single one of the kills for Giant X, but it wasn't enough against Fnatic.
It was one of those rare games that you get in solo queue where everyone, including yourself, is probably feeding, but there's one dude on your team managing to get kills, managing to be that threat to the other team, and he's not tilted. You're just kind of like, how are you untilted by this type of thing? That's how it felt about Jackie's. Maybe he was tilted at the end of the day with how things went. He certainly didn't show it, and his performance and effort in that game absolutely was up to that level. Not enough, though, to be at the level that Fnatic was playing at and how they're performing right now in this early part of this regular season as you've laid out. Yes, easy quote-unquote schedule in this early part, but absolutely taking care of the business and putting the results up on the board in their favor.
And now one of the picks that we're seeing Corki pivot to the bot lane, not going mid anymore. Obviously saw that with Jackie's also playing the Varus mid, but Corki going in the bot lane. We saw Elyoya playing Zyra jungle. This is not fearless. This is just an expansion of the meta kind of shifting here heading into summer.
So I think definitely more so a response as well to what we saw at MSI, that bet on your own champions, bet on your own meta, and you can define it within a series, within a stretch like that at a tournament. I think a lot of these LEC teams have taken that to heart and have said, you know what, we're going to come up with our own sauce. We're going to get our own style here. And you're seeing that with a couple of these champion picks where they're willing to experiment and expand into is a big part of that. The Corki pick for me, maybe is just kind of Velcro attached on to some of those more spicy picks, because yes, it is a little bit different seeing him go return to that bottom lane again. A lot of people had predicted this was going to be the home that we would find Corki in at some point this year, given the changes that came through to the champion.
The Zyra jungle pick is obviously the much crazier one. I know we've been seeing Karthus pop up as that speed farming AP jungler, but Mad Lions did Baron. It was like sub 15 seconds, I think, in this match. And even during pick ban, you heard the casters, they were all didn't even know that it was going to be in the jungle until it was finally locked in the last 30 seconds. They had this Nautilus flex pick that you could hear people, is it going top, is it going mid, is it jungle Nautilus? So obviously, even though it's, I think, been played in solo queue a little bit, definitely the most surprising one so far in week 1.
Yeah, and I love seeing this pick come through, because we've heard Zyra be kind of bouncing around very close to that limit of being towards where teams are comfortable, want to take a chance on her as a champion, whether that was in the support role or as well the rumors of her being in the jungle, wanting to take advantage of that. I don't think you're necessarily seeing the advantages that someone like Karthus provides when he's in the jungle and how quickly he can roam through and clear out those camps and everything else. But it was pretty darn close, and pretty darn close was more than good enough for what we saw in that game from Mad Lions.
And again, the Baron objective side of things, they're killing even quicker than those Karthus Skittles spamming on Dragon and Baron. Other squad that went 2-0 to kick things off, I'm noticing a theme, because one of the best, if not the best, AD carries from last split, Ice, picking up a pentakill in his first week, and that's 3 Korean AD carries. Their squad's all going 2-0. Just saying, noticing a theme there, Mark.
And it's the LCK import taking over the LEC. It took a little bit longer than the LCS, but here we are nonetheless with our other Western brethren talking about Korean ADCs dominating the scene. Yes, it is Ice on BDS, another dominant 2-0 pickup for this squad, and absolutely the right pace, the right performances that you need to see from a BDS that is that one that has shown you that we are going to be a top tier team in the LEC. We are comfortably into that upper tier. But are we the ones that can say, without question, we are the best squad in the LEC? That's what I think this split is going to have to define or set for BDS at this point to make it a challenge to the established top teams of the LEC.
And it does, again, feel like the ceiling is higher now with Ice on this roster, and when we're seeing picks like this Jinx surface more and more alongside the Corki pivots, it does feel like we're transitioning away from the Senna meta, even though Senna is still picked many times here early in summer, but the hyper carries are slowly starting to show up again here.
I think we're seeing that it's viable in the sense that you get the right opportunities, you get the right execution on yourself throughout the early phase, throughout that mid game. You're popping off just in any other type of way. You are accessing that hyper carry tier of the champion and what it provides in that thing where before, not able to get off the ground into that territory before a Senna's hitting you from like a whole screen away type of situation. Absolutely a better environment for that. And you are seeing that taken advantage of by most of these Korean ADCs right now in the LEC.
And it seems to be a pretty good win con to have these Korean AD carries on a hyper carry that'll take over the game in that late game. But it's a 2-0 start for BDS, who, as you mentioned, have always been in that tier below championship level, as we've seen now the last 3-4 splits. See if they can get to that next level here in the summer split. Still got a day of LEC action, but already some absolutely beautifully immaculate fiestas over in Europe. 2 very, very tasty ones. We start with Mad Lions versus Carmine Corp. A 10K gold lead. Anytime you're seeing a 10K gold lead, plus Chemtech Soul, and somehow the team manages to lose the game, you gotta call it a throw. As great as a comeback may be, a throw has to be involved.
What's the next level of a throw? Like rocket propelled loss type of thing or whatever? Because that had more velocity than any human throw possible was what was going on in this one. You laid it out. The advantages, the built up lead, the Chemtech Soul on top of it all. Mad Lions Koi find a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Unbelievable stuff there. You got to give credit over to Carmine Corp. I think that's an important part about looking at this Fiesta, is about them hanging around in this position and being opportunistic to pounce on the mistakes from the Mad Lions Koi. But the question really is, you look at Mad Lions Koi and you go, how are we making these decisions? And how are we making the follow-up team fight decisions after the first one went so poorly?
Yeah, just a super tough 0-2 for Mad Lions overall, because they had that Zyra game. They also had a good lead against G2. Not nearly as an egregious a throw as this one, but especially blowing a 10K lead against K-Corp in that Spanish-French rivalry. And you know the fans are frothing at the mouth on the blue wall to finally get a win.
No lie, probably the loudest the type of matchup that we get in the LEC right now is this Mad Lions matchup versus Carmine Corp. French versus Spanish, as you laid out. Unfortunate bragging rights earned here by the French, by K-Corp taking it over Mad Lions Koi. And you know, as you laid out, that's stinging a little bit extra losing this one.
Their 0-2 wasn't even the worst 0-2 of these first couple days, and wasn't
no.
even the worst Fiesta. You gotta go over to Vitality versus Rogue, and Vitality, Carzy somehow gets a Ziggs ulti Baron steal from mid lane, and then you see him yucking it up, laughing at Rogue, and 30 seconds later, not one, not two, but 3 members of Vitality just randomly get caught out, and then they lose the game.
What's that meme going around where it's, you know, the ha 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 again, ha 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 again? That's all it was in this, and it was dying for this one. A very unfortunate matchup. I think out of this one, I'm not going to be the only guy coming away from it saying I wish both teams got a negative loss on the column for this one. That's how it should have been scored up at the end of the day, because no one deserves to step away from this one claiming that they are the victor, because absolutely very middling, mundane performance from Rogue overall across the board. And then you get to this one for Vitality, where everything mostly was pretty good across the board until you get to a boneheaded choice and execution, followed up by an even worse execution and choice from this Vitality squad, obviously leading towards Rogue being able to pick up the Nexus and destroy it. Very head scratching watching this one and trying to come away with any type of positive conclusions.
And you can give that the full Fiesta title, but you look at both these games for Vitality, they were getting massive lane leads just straight up through the laning phase. Huge CS numbers in both this and the loss to BDS. And then just no idea what to do afterwards. It was Viteo, Hillisang, Photon, Linkus, everybody just getting caught out randomly and dying.
Number one, we got to return to talk about Viteo in that one, because these performances ain't nowhere close to EU Chovy.
I've never seen Chovy play Yone like that. No.
Bro, not even when it's Choky, he ain't playing like that, is one of the things you got to realize what we saw with that performance. But I do need to stop in the bottom lane and talk about Carzy. This is a guy that was talking, and I know there's a lot of talk, a lot of memes coming through and all these type of things. This is someone was saying in the offseason, I'm coming in ready. I'm going to be a top 3 ADC in the LEC. Brother, some of these choices, you're lucky to be a bottom 3 ADC in the EMCA, the lower downs, anything else like that. This was not the performance that you needed to bounce back into this split with. And as well, as we mentioned, Viteo, those performances, the way that he was certainly trying to get something going, the decision-making and choices at that point were not aligned with it. And absolutely following through with it was a poor choice from him.
If you cut the stream at 15 minutes, you could say Carzy's a top 380 carry. Vitality's one of the best teams in the league, but then they turn their monitors off afterwards, and they're just getting caught left, right, and center. So a yucky performance of Vitality to go 0-2 despite the miraculous Ziggs Baron steal. It is Rogue coming away with a win there. Pivoting away from the LEC, and this is... You hate to always be bringing this up for news again. It's T1. We're gearing up for the LCK summer split. And what do we hear? That the last week or so, yet again, practice has been hindered for T1 due to DDoS attacks, and the team announcing they've been working with Riot so that their HQ, the players, are no longer being DDoSed, but now people are DDoSing their teammates in solo queue, which prompted T1 to now stop all streams for T1 players, and they even went on to say that this is now costing them financially, which means, now T1's real angry.
What type of pathetic basement-dwelling loser do you gotta be to go DDoS attack the other guys in their game just to go, like, a whole nother level thing? This is exactly a very unfortunate situation in the LCK, and especially one for the T1 fans and the T1 organization and the players. It's one of those ones where we have to make the realization and have to have an understanding heading into this split. Maybe this is not going to be the response that you wanted from MSI, because there hasn't been a chance to prepare, to practice, to iron out a lot of the things that you would want or expect in that time frame due to these DDoS attacks and how it is changing up, and where that then puts the position for T1 on that starting block for this LCK split, and where they maybe can get some good practice and everything else as the season starts to get undergoing. You're still behind that 8 ball compared to everybody else, especially for T1, compared to the Hanwha Lights, compared to the Gen G champions that you are trying to chase down in the LCK. Going to be an even tougher task for them, because no matter what we think about the T1 organization and how unbelievable, miraculously these players are, the reality is they're human. They need practice. They need repetition to build up that level of performance and stability on stage. And without access to that, on a regular basis, kiss that out the window, goodbye, and you're just gambling that they do end up coming up with that performance, with that difference maker on the day to beat whoever that opponent is. And right now, what they're doing, having to practice in arena mode, is absolutely not telling me that we're going to get to that level.
Yeah, curious saying that's what the team is doing instead of solo queue. They're playing a little bit of arena. So check out T1's team fighting this split. It's going to be absolutely next level. But I know people said this before, and they're going to think it again. It's just solo queue. It sounds like T1 is still able to scrim, but guys, this is Korean solo queue. This isn't NA solo queue. Professional players actually take a big part and take seriously solo queue, and it's the way to get ready for meta picks, to figure out how to do counter picks, just practice your mechanics. There's actual praise when someone is at the top of the Korean solo queue ladder.
We're not talking about heading to your local park and playing, basketball shoot around with like 3 overweight dudes, a kid, and, all these other type of things going on. We're talking about showing up against former professional players, college athletes, these type of things, and saying, yeah, I'm ready to go without any type of practice or warm-up situation. It does not cut it. I don't care how you want to slice it up or where you want to diminish this type of factor onto T1. Absolutely is a negative effect, and one that is setting them behind compared to where the situations of any of the other competitors are going to be in this league. And I don't think it takes a T1 fan to recognize that this is not an environment you want to be in. This is an unfair situation, even to the rest of the teams, to have a T1 that is not allowed to be at the level that they should be at.
Silver lining for this one. If I'm Faker, I'm saying, I got to play arena instead of solo queue. I'm resting the wrist. I'm not playing all those extra solo queue games. I'm doing some stretches and going to bed.
Absolutely, this should be used as some rest and rehabilitation time for Faker. And this is not just, backseat, backyard doctoring it type of situation. This is someone that knows the situation, has dealt with similar type of injuries and execution on it, and saying, you know what, got to take this thing carefully, got to take it seriously. Seeing what was going on at MSI, a couple of those stretches type of things, I want my boy in prime shape for Worlds. So absolutely a good opportunity for some rest.
Maybe that's what all the DDoSers are looking for. They're just saying, give Faker a rest.
No.
They're going
Get out of here.
worst possible way to go about it. But yeah, obviously, this isn't the LCK faults. This is a Riot thing, and T1 kind of said that. But they got to figure this out so that they're on the same playing field as the rest of the LCK squads, because that's obviously what everybody wants to see. What we want to see in the LPL is some competitive, exciting games. And now that we're getting deeper and deeper into summer placements, we're seeing some surprise squads. When you jump to Group D now, anyone's legend are looking pretty damn legit, fresh off a 2-0 against NIP, sitting at the top of the table now.
Some good performances from this group and what they've done, and I think it's one of those ones where you realize who this group is. You start going, wait, that's these are the guys that
it's a misfit squad, no question.
Absolutely. Any guy that you thought, oh, there's a little shining star, there's a little bit of something here, pair them all together, and man, that's what you got on Anyone's Legend, and you laid it out. They have picked up those 2 key wins for them in their group that puts them at the tippity top of the group in front and in the front runner seat.
Yeah, I mean, they're sitting right there. Ultra Prime is in that 2 spot. This is the one group that has 5 teams, remember. But you got NIP and Weibo sitting at 3-4 now. And again, Ultra Prime, Anyone's Legends ahead of them. So obviously, this is the most surprising group so far in the LPL. It's less surprising, though, than seeing Tarzan have a Lee Sin game where he does 800 damage, Mark. 800? How's that even possible?
The worst thing about it is going back, watching that game, I'm confused on where he gets to that 800 even. My mind's tracking and kind of going, yeah, 400, 500. But how are you even getting to 800 at this point? Must have picked up, a Q on someone or maybe an ult.
He misclicked a smite on one of them.
I don't know, man. And this is one of those ones where it continues this story that has been, circulating around and kind of momentum and feeling towards Tarzan as far as what he can do and what he's going to, perform wise. I'm still someone that thinks that the Tarzan that has built the name and icon status is absolutely there. And that's not what these performances have been. There's a lot of people that are banking on that. This is what Tarzan is. And this is why things went wrong for LNG.
I mean, I feel like you got to talk about confidence first, because with all these carry junglers coming in, my man dropping Sejuani, Maokai games, and an 800 damage Lee Sin, it doesn't exactly scream, give me a carry and I'm going to carry this early game and take over. So it's still early for him. We're not expecting him to be 800 damage Lee Sin levels of bad, but definitely need a level up and some growth from not just him, but the rest of this Weibo squad as well. But that is it today. For League Unlock, Eric and Mark here with you, beautiful people. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and you best believe we will catch you on that flippity flip.